picture the Attari-Wagah border. You can almost hear it, can't you?
Mm-hmm.
The marching, the ceremony, that whole, daily display.
Yeah, the beating retreat. Very precise, very symbolic.
Exactly. But contrast that image, that sound, with what's actually happening right now.
It's a completely different scene, much quieter in some ways, but filled with this real human tension.
Absolutely. We're talking post April 22nd, 2025, after that terrible attack in Pahalgam.
A horrific event, yes. The deadliest since Pulwama, I believe.
Right. And the reaction was immediate. The border between India and Pakistan, it effectively slammed shut on April 23rd.
A very swift and very severe response. Understandable, perhaps, from a security perspective, but the fallout.
The fallout is what we're diving into today. Forget the ceremony for a minute. We're focusing on the families.
Specifically, these cross-border families. Pakistani women married to Indian men, Indian women married to Pakistani men.
Who are just stuck, stranded on the wrong side, often with all the right papers, valid visas, everything.
It's become this bureaucratic nightmare, really, with immense personal consequences.
Yeah. We're piecing this together from news reports, personal accounts, and some of the details are just, staggering.
It really is unbelievable in some aspects.
Think about it. Valid visas suddenly meaning nothing. Little kids crossing borders alone because their parents are blocked. The cost, financially and emotionally, it's immense.
The sheer absurdity and heartbreak, really.
Can you even imagine? You have the legal right, the documents to join your family, but you're just physically stopped by red tape.
It highlights the immense power of the state in controlling movement, doesn't it? And how quickly things can change.
Let's look at some specific people caught up in this. There's Dr. Vikram Udasi from Jalgaon in Maharashtra.
Right.
He's waiting at Attari for his wife, Priya. She's Pakistani. She went to visit her family maybe 25 days ago.
A fairly normal trip, you'd assume.
Exactly. And she has a long-term visa, an LTV, valid until 2026, plus, crucially, an NORI certificate.
A no objection to return to India certificate, which is supposed to be.
It's golden ticket, right. It's India saying, yes, she can come back.
That's precisely its intended function, to provide that assurance for these families.
But here's where it just gets awful. Their son, 4 years old, an Indian citizen, he was allowed to cross back into India.
I know.
Alone. But Priya, his mother, was stopped. She's stuck in Lahore.
A 4-year-old child crossing an international border without a parent. That's deeply concerning.
The trauma for that child, you can only imagine.
Just the stress for the parents. Unbearable.
And the cost. Dr. Udasi is paying for hotels in Amritsar, something like Rs. 2,500 a day, taxis to the border every day, another 1,000.
Meanwhile, Priya's costs in Lahore must be mounting too.
Hugely. She apparently had to pay Rs. 80,000 for a flight that usually costs maybe Rs. 25,000. Then hotels, taxis to the Wagah side, thousands per day, just to be turned back.
The financial bleed is incredible, just the cost of waiting in limbo. How long can people sustain that?
It's a massive burden. Then there's Rishi Kumar from Kolhapur, also waiting at Attari.
Okay, similar situation.
Similar, yes. His wife, Savita Kumari, is from Balochistan in Pakistan. They've been married 13 years, have 10-year-old twins, Saisha and Revansh, who are Indian citizens.
Right.
Savita went to see her parents just 12 days ago. Rishi actually dropped her off at Attari.
Wow. So very recent.
Very. And now she's reportedly one of about 50 Pakistani women stuck in Lahore, all apparently holding valid LTVs.
50. So this isn't just one or two isolated cases. It's a significant group.
Exactly. And what makes it even more confusing is the policy inconsistency.
How so?
Well, reports say only Indian passport holders are currently being allowed to cross from Pakistan into India.
Okay.
But these women, like Priya and Savita, they have Indian-issued long-term visas. Many have the NORI from India too, yet they're denied entry.
So Indian citizens can cross, but non-citizens with valid Indian residency documents cannot. That seems illogical.
It feels like a diplomatic mess. India says, sure, NRI holders with LTVs can come back.
Which sounds promising.
But then reports suggest Pakistan isn't letting them leave from Wagah.
So they're caught between the two sides' positions. A diplomatic hot potato, as you said?
Precisely. Now, let's step back. Why did this happen so suddenly? The trigger was that April 22nd attack in Pahalgam.
Yes, 26 people killed. A major escalation in violence.
And India's response was forceful, suspending the Indus Waters Treaty.
A huge move. diplomatically and strategically.
Expelling Pakistani military attachés and, as we said, shutting the Attari-Wagah border the very next day, April 23rd.
Very strong signals being sent.
Then, by April 27th, the visa crackdown hit. India revoked basically all visas for Pakistani nationals.
Except for a few categories.
Right. Long-term diplomatic official visas were spared, but medical visas were only good until April 29th, and the SARC visa exemption scheme scrapped.
A significant tightening of controls.
And Pakistan responded in kind, shutting their side, Wagah canceling visa privileges for Indians, tit for tat.
Which rapidly escalated the situation on the ground, closing off movement.
Though, interestingly, some people did cross on Saturday the 26th. About 75 Pakistanis went back to Pakistan, and 335 Indians returned from Pakistan.
So not a total, absolute shutdown for everyone immediately.
No, but the problem clearly lies with these mixed nationality families, especially those trying to enter India who aren't Indian passport holders, even with LTVs and NORIs.
Which brings us back to the NORI. Let's clarify that again.
Okay, so the no objection to return to India certificate issued by India's Ministry of External Affairs.
Primarily for Pakistani nationals, often spouses of Indians.
Right. And it's meant to allow them temporary visits back to Pakistan without losing their right to come back to India. It's supposed to work with the LTV to guarantee smooth reentry.
The intended safety net.
But the reality, Indian officials at Attari are apparently saying, we have instructions, let NRI holders in.
Okay. So the block is elsewhere.
It seems so. Reports say Pakistani authorities at Wagah are stopping them from leaving. An Attari official was quoted expressing frustration about this exact thing.
A breakdown in coordination, or perhaps differing interpretations or instructions between the two sides.
And this isn't the first time NRI holders have been stranded, is it?
No, you're right. During the COVID lockdowns, there were reports of over 500 stuck in Pakistan.
So there's a precedent for this kind of vulnerability. The current crisis just makes it much worse because of the heightened tensions.
Exactly. The political climate has amplified an existing systemic weakness.
And the human cost, beyond the bureaucracy, it's just devastating.
We have to keep coming back to that. The real impact on real people.
The financial strain we talked about for Dr. Udasi and Priya, it's potentially ruinous. You wonder if they'll need crowdfunding soon.
It's a terrible additional stressor on an already agonizing situation.
And Rishi Kumar waiting, knowing Savita is one of maybe 50 women in Lahore, holding these documents that feel like worthless lottery tickets right now.
The feeling of helplessness must be overwhelming. Holding the key, but the door is locked from both sides.
But more than money, it's the emotional toll. Being separated from your spouse, your kids, because of government actions. Dr. Udasi said he felt deeply traumatized.
And the uncertainty. Not knowing when or even if this will be resolved, that weighs heavily.
Now, we've focused on Pakistani women stuck there, but there's another side to this coin, equally troubling.
Yes, the Indian women stuck here in India.
Exactly. Indian women married to Pakistani men, they have Indian passports, they want to go home to their families in Pakistan. But they're being stopped at Attari from leaving India.
So, Indian citizens being prevented from exiting India to return to their legal residence and families in Pakistan.
Yes, and get this, their children, who are often Pakistani nationals.
Let me guess. The children are allowed to cross.
Reportedly, yes. It's baffling. Take Sadhvi Alvi, Indian citizen married in Karachi, stuck at Attari with her 5-year-old Pakistani son. He's expected to cross alone.
A 5-year-old crossing alone into Pakistan. That's just, I mean, the logistics, the safety, the emotional impact. It's unthinkable.
She just wants to go home to Karachi, to her husband.
Of course. It's fundamentally cruel.
Then there's Mathita Khan. She came to India in February to visit family. Her kids, born here but with Pakistani passports, are being told they should leave. But she can't go with them.
So, urging the children to leave but blocking the mother.
Yes. She apparently showed all her documents, marriage certificate, everything, and the advice from immigration, go talk to the embassy.
Which is not helpful at the border crossing itself. It suggests a real lack of clear protocol for these specific difficult cases right there on the ground.
Feels like passing the buck, doesn't it? When people need immediate answers.
It really does. And this is all playing out against that bigger picture of deteriorating India-Pakistan relations post-Pahalgam.
Right. The treaty suspension, the visa cancellations, it's a very tense backdrop.
And in these tense times, unfortunately, the human element often gets lost in the geopolitical maneuvering.
It really feels like it here. These families are caught in the crossfire. They're not security threats. They're just people trying to live their lives across a border.
But that border has suddenly become incredibly hard, incredibly politicized.
And that NORI certificate, meant to help, is now like a bureaucratic booby trap.
Especially for the children caught in the middle. Their vulnerability is extreme.
You see the outrage online, don't you? People on social media are furious.
Yeah, platforms like X are full of it, highlighting the sheer unfairness.
Someone summed it up perfectly. Love doesn't care about borders, but apparently bureaucrats do.
That captures the sentiment well, a real disconnect between policy and basic human connection.
It's almost, well, it's not funny, but the absurdity is so stark it borders on, I don't know, dark humor. Like a cosmic prank.
A real-life game of snakes and ladders where you keep landing on the snake that sends you right back, holding useless documents.
Maybe the taxi drivers in Amritsar and Lahore are the only winners, offering loyalty cards for daily trips to the closed border.
A bleak thought, but it highlights the sheer repetitive futility these families are facing.
So, looking ahead, what needs to happen? It seems obvious, doesn't it?
Prioritize the families.
Yeah.
Stop treating them like collateral damage. That has to be step one.
Both governments need to find a way. India says NORI TV holders can return, so Pakistan needs to let them leave. These delays from Islamabad, they need to end.
Yes. Facilitate their departure if the destination country is willing to accept them. Clarity and action are needed.
And India really needs to look at its policy for the Indian women stuck here. Separating mothers from children trying to go home, it's illogical and cruel.
There needs to be consistency and compassion. Family unity should be a guiding principle.
How about a practical solution? A hotline, a joint task force, something specific from the MEA and Pakistan's foreign ministry just for these cases.
That seems like a sensible, concrete step. A dedicated channel to cut through the red tape and address these specific humanitarian situations urgently.
Because ultimately, that point about love transcending borders, it's true. And policies should try to reflect that, not actively fight against it for families caught in the middle.
Finding that balance between security and humanity is the challenge, but it's essential.
So this whole situation at Attari-Wagah, it's such a powerful, painful reminder of how big political tensions crash down on individual lives.
Absolutely. We have to remember the names, the stories. Dr. Udasi, Priya, Rishi, Savita, Sadhvi, Mashida, their kids.
These are real people, not just statistics or diplomatic talking points. Their lives are in turmoil.
And the Pahalgam attack, horrific as it was, shouldn't justify this kind of collective punishment against families with legitimate cross-border ties.
You have to imagine the atmosphere there now. Fewer tourists, that beating retreat ceremony feeling different, maybe hollow.
Against the backdrop of these stranded families, yes, the usual pomp must feel jarring. It highlights the contrast between state performance and individual reality.
It really makes you think, doesn't it, about the human element in these big disputes. What responsibility do governments have?
What does securing a border mean if it causes such profound suffering to innocent families, including their own citizens in some cases?
It's something for all of us to consider, the deeply personal impact of geopolitics. How do we balance security with basic human decency?
That's the fundamental question these situations force us to confront. And maybe focusing on these individual stories helps push us towards more humane answers.